Humanianity, a new religious call. Humanianity, religion for us all. Humanity, now we all can see. Humanity, how much better we can be.
Hi, I'm Bill Van Fleet, and this is Humanianity Conversation number 92, recorded on December 30th, 2020. It is the 48th recorded conversation with my friend Mike. We continued the comparison of our worldviews, this time focusing on the meaning and nature of belief. Once again, however, we got back to the issue of solipsism and whether a belief exists if it is not active and in awareness. Much of our disagreement is probably due to different word usage.
Okay. Okay. So I realized I remember last meeting that um, we had talked about, we felt it was very disjointed. We feel that we didn't make much progress and we weren't sure what we were going to talk about this discussion. The salient thing that I remember from last discussion was you making the point that, um, or us somehow discussing the very very strong opposition, and almost to the point you said of me, you experiencing me as being oppositional um, to your attitudes about beliefs, and I had highlighted that what I'm being oppositional about and what I'm having such a difficult time about is I believe that your worldview regarding beliefs was based on a belief you have that you somehow know the way most people on the planet behave and how they would use the word belief, and you clarified, no, that's not what you had meant by your statements. The reason why you were speaking, you said the word, this is the way people use the word belief, is so people could understand you. um and maybe we should start there.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I did not mean that you were just being oppositional for the sake of being oppositional or anything like that. Um, but in the first place, what this is referring to is my statement that the way that I use can you hold on? I've got to take this call.
Sure, I can hold. Yeah, certainly.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay. So,
So what I yeah, I
yeah,
think
you were saying.
I was in the middle of saying that um, see, I don't think that it is optimal to make up words uh, that other people don't know. Uh, it's more optimal to use words the way that most everybody does. But words are used in many different ways. Um, and so one person can be using the words in one way and another person another way, and they can be talking past each other then. Um, now, what I was, the issue that we're dealing with is that you believe that my total set of things that I refer to as belief uh, is really not uh, is not a set, but because there is too great a difference between uh, the one end and the other of a continuum in that definition, which I'll get to. Okay, so and what it well, I'll get to it now. I was talking about that when you automatically turn your steering wheel left to make the car turn left, that is a belief that that's what will happen. And then at the other end of a continuum is a belief that there is a God who might do this, that, or the other. And in your mind, that seemed like those were two different things. They couldn't be examples of the same thing. Well, what I was then saying was um, these beliefs, uh, which also exist in other species that have nervous systems um, that are changed in various ways by experience, such that the animal then responds in a different way, um, and usually um, more optimally. And so I was using as an example of that the rat, putting the rat in the maze, and the rat learns that food is to the right in the maze, and so it turns to the right most often. And so since it has learned that, it has developed, I would say, the belief that food is on the right in the maze, even though the that belief might be inactive when you put the rat back in its cage. Okay, well, I think uh, oh, well, so in what I just said, that the rat believes that food is to the right in the maze, I think is something that anybody would understand if I said that, even though they may describe it with different words, like the rat was conditioned to turn right in the maze, or something like that. So, but what I'm saying is that I am not using an so atypical a meaning for the word belief that others would not know what I was talking about. Uh, and so um, that doesn't mean that I am making a prediction that 100% people would use the same terminology if they were speaking on their own. And somehow that it seemed like you were thinking that I was uh, making some assumption about what percentage of the population would say such and such, but I wasn't doing that. I was just saying that I was using it in an understandable way. That so I don't think it's a bad use of the word belief to say that the rat believes that food is to the right in the maze. So I
Okay.
think that exists on the continuum that goes all the way to belief in a God and so on, that it's a continuum. And that whole continuum is one where people would use the word belief, or if they, I'm sorry, they would frequently use the word belief, but maybe not always, but they would know what somebody was meaning when they said a belief that a God exists, uh, or a
Okay.
belief that Harris Teeter is just around the corner, or a belief that uh, so and so probably had a bad day yesterday, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. So it's make sure I understand what you're saying. So are you saying that because most people would understand what you said regarding the rat believes the food is on the left and this person believes in God, that is therefore, you can then use that to deduce what belief is. So that's what I'm hearing your logic to be.
No,
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 okay,
no,
I'm not
the-
understanding.
no, no. We we define our words to a greater or lesser extent, um, depending upon how technical we want to become. But but the but that's not a deduction. Um, and when that came in what you were just saying,
Mhm.
came into your conversation, uh, I I did not have any clear picture of what you could possibly mean by that deducing. I wasn't deducing anything.
Okay, so let me put it another way. So it sounds like what you're saying is people use the word belief to apply to a situation regarding a rat, and they also use the word belief to a situation regarding someone stating that they believe in God. Therefore, beliefs are on a continuum between those two things and others. On one hand, there's the rat, and the other hand, there's this person's statement of a belief in God. Is that accurate?
Um, I think that is getting close. That's pretty
Okay.
close. It might be okay, but uh, so what you are talking about me deducing is that the rat's belief that food is on the right in the maze is an item in the set that also includes that so-and-so believes that God exists.
Yeah, that's a way of that's an yeah. So a more accurate way of me saying that would say because people can understand those two statements, it means that beliefs, those two things are in the set of beliefs.
Well, not exactly. I am not saying that.
Okay.
I'm saying that both of those things involve uh, the nervous system um, having a certain pattern of uh, uh, increased synaptic uh, potentials or whatever it is in the
Mhm.
brain that has been brought about by uh, the experience of the rat or the human. And
Okay.
so uh, we're talking about that that basic idea that the brain or the mind learns essentially.
Okay, can you explain to me how the ability of the mind or the brain to learn, so to speak, how is that related to belief?
Well, uh, to learn means to develop the belief that.
Okay. I have a concern with that because that seems like circular reasoning. You're saying that learning implies belief, and then I heard you just say, well, belief is also related to beliefs and learning are related. So in the same way, I pointed out that circular reasoning. I forgot what I pointed out again. It seems to be this. It's similar here. You're saying people learn, therefore they believe. So learning leads to belief. But I also hear you say, in a certain sense, that belief kind of leads to learning. Is that what I'm
I'm
hearing you say?
not really saying that.
Okay.
I'm not deducing something. I am um, I am verbalizing a very basic fundamental uh, portion of my worldview that I think that most everybody does have. That's my impression. Um, uh, and that to learn means to acquire a belief. Now,
Okay.
maybe you see an exception to that. Do you see an exception where the mind or the brain has learned something and it does not involve the acquisition of a belief?
What do you mean by the acquisition of belief? Then I could probably answer that. What do you mean by that?
Just that now the
Right.
brain mind has a belief that it did not have prior to learning. That learning, that's what learning means.
No, I don't think so. A a learning, well, I think in the first sentence I could say that, again, you said belief. So learning is a verb. Belief is not a verb. So those are
Well,
two different things. So when you say lead to, I think let me give you the scenario. So are you saying that I read something in a book and I learn X, Y, Z? So therefore, if I'm learning X, Y, Z, I can't help but believe something about X, Y, and Z. Is that what you're saying? Is that
well,
an
yeah.
example? Okay.
I mean, well, wait. When you learn, you you acquire something that is learned.
Mhm.
Um, I don't. It doesn't seem to me that what part of speech has anything to do with it. It's what it is meaning.
Okay.
So I'm not
Yes, I think if go ahead.
I'm not saying that learning is believing.
Okay.
I'm saying that believing results. Um, Believing is the result of learning. That's what learning means.
Can you take me through that specifically before I can react to it? I don't understand. Learning is believing. What
No,
could you? Oh,
learning is
it,
believing.
a belief's result. Just say that whole thing again, because it didn't get in.
It is through the process of learning that the brain or mind acquires new beliefs.
Okay, can you give me an example?
Already have.
Say it again?
I already have. The uh, for the rat, it learns that food is to the right. It therefore develops belief that food is to the right. A person learns from other people that there is an entity watching him or her, and so believes that an entity is watching him or her.
I think the rat is too easy a case for me to refute. I'd like to take a harder one. I'd like to take, like, let's stick with humans. Um, is there a situation, and this is, I think, going to bring out and highlight the real.
Just 1 minute. So you said the the one about the rat is too easy to refute.
I think that's very easy to refute.
Well, could you go ahead and do that then, please?
You cannot deduce anything about what's happening within the rat. You can't deduce anything that's happening within the rat's subjective experience because you're not a rat. You have
I wasn't
apps.
talking about subjective experience.
Well, does belief and learning happen within subjective experience? Is belief and learning part of subjective experience? I would claim they are.
A lot of learning takes place without any subjective awareness of that learning.
I would agree with that. Maybe subjective awareness. That's not what I said. I said, is learning and belief part of subjective experience? I claim, of course it is.
Not necessarily.
So,
No.
okay, then what set? If there's a set called it's your subjective experience and everything that's in that set, and if learning and beliefs are not part of that set, then what set are they part of?
They're not, well, a lot of them are. They're not, they're not excluded from subjective experience. It's just that a lot of learning takes place outside of conscious awareness.
I would grant that. But you can't, you don't understand what the word consciousness, how the word consciousness applies to a rat. So when you say in and out of awareness, we don't even know if that idea about being in and out of awareness or awareness itself even applies to a rat.
In other words, you're saying you don't know whether the rat has subjective experience.
Yeah, well, yeah, what I'm saying is, no, what I'm really saying is that you're anthropomorphizing the rat. So you
How
can understand it, I think. Well, because you're saying that, it seems like you're saying that the way consciousness applies to us and what our subjective experience is, I can deduce what's going on with the rat.
if I say that rats eat, does that mean I am anthropomorphizing rats?
No, because you can see the rat eat, and you can make an analogy between what we do as humans and what they are doing. When you were talking about beliefs and learning, that
Okay,
those are things that happen, though they don't happen in, to the rat's physical body. It happens, I maintain, within the rat's subjective experience, which I would assume it has. I don't
happens,
even know if that's true.
it happens within the physical body and the brain. You can't see it, but that's what we have come to recognize. Get
Okay,
rid of the brain and the learning can't take place.
I granted, I'll give you that. I'm not even, I think I could even argue that, but I'll kind of just give you that.
Right.
Okay, it happens in the brain. That, you know, um, let's see, love happens in the brain. So does that mean, or hate or mathematics, you can say, happens in the brain? When I solve a math problem, does that mean a rat can solve a math problem because it has a brain?
No, well, I don't follow that at all.
You don't follow how you are assigning attributes to the rat's brain that humans have, simply on the basis that we both share brains, even though its brain is vastly different than humans.
Well, it's not vastly different depending upon what total set you're looking at. If you go back include very primitive species and so forth.
Well, what I mean, compared to a Homo sapien, you and me, a rat's brain is vastly different. I would argue in the sense of how it's structured, in its size, in its volume, in the complexity of its synaptic connections. So just because they both have brains, I think it's very. I don't think you can just say, well, I have a brain, a rat has a brain. I have XYZ because I have a brain. Therefore, a rat has XYZ because it has a brain.
No, well, no, it's what I'm doing is, I think, talking about what is generally accepted. Um, uh, if you take the brain out of the rat is not going to learn that food is to the right. It's not going to be able to do anything. And we,
Okay.
I think there would be very few people that would disagree with that.
I wouldn't take exception that it is. Learning is something that you can observe if you want to define it a certain way.
No, yeah, but on the other hand, there's a lot of learning that you can't observe.
Well, that's my point.
Yeah, okay.
So, so it seems like you're saying, as a human, I have a brain. I go through learning these different things and acquiring something that I would say is a belief, which is beliefs and learning is beliefs. That's something you can observe.
I'm sorry.
You acquire beliefs and learning in ways that cannot be observed for a human, and for me, I know that's true for me. Let's just say.
Uh-huh.
Then, but if you cannot observe it, then you cannot apply it to the rat, because it has a brain, yes, but it is so vastly different that I think it's reasonable to say, in order for me to ascribe and assign an attribute that I have as a human to a rat, simply on the basis that it has a brain and I have a brain, you would
Well,
have to observe that.
not, not simply on that basis. No, for goodness sakes, no.
Well, what basis is it then?
We are well aware that humans can learn things. Our pet dogs can learn things. Um, that other species can learn things. And we have learned that um, that learning is dependent upon the brain
Mm-hmm.
in all the species.
It's maybe, I mean, I guess I'm not explaining this well, maybe. Um, Let me try a different way. Let's maybe get more specific. What do you mean by learning? Let's just start. Maybe we should start there. What is learning? What do you mean by that?
The acquisition of new beliefs.
That is. Oh, okay. This is definitely circular reasoning. Then I thought you were going to say something about behavior. It's the
Not re-
acquisition of new beliefs.
I'm not reasoning.
This to say you're not reasoning, I think, is unreasonable. But
I'm not,
anyway, so
what
you're
you,
not. Wait. Hold on. You're saying. I just have to take this for a minute. You're saying you're not reasoning here. You are not You're not doing any kind of reasoning in the sense of making observations, making analogies, using metaphors to try to understand what's going on with a rat and a human.
I thought you meant logical
Oh
reasoning.
no. No, I just no. I not no, not in that sense. I just meant reasoning in the way I just described. Um, so where was I? Um, so learning is the way you're describing it is the acquisition of beliefs.
Yeah,
right?
of new beliefs, yeah. Or it could actually, it could be more than that. It could be the strengthening of beliefs. Yeah, that would also be true.
Okay.
A person could believe something somewhat, and then with repetition of certain experience, that belief could get stronger.
How do you tell the difference between something that's learned and something that's a belief in your worldview?
There is not a distinction.
Explain further that there's not a distinction. Then why do we have both those words?
We
Just
have,
curious. I understand we have words, but why would you use? I guess what I'm saying is,
we,
why would you use those two words differently? So you're saying whenever I use the word belief, I can use the word learn.
I was beginning to answer, and you were saying, no, 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 like that, to wipe out what I was saying.
No, no, to wipe out what I was saying, 'cause that's not what I was meaning. What the meaning is not. It wasn't why why do we have those two words? What I
You were,
meant by that is are you saying that
you were
you
stopping.
can use the word interchangeably?
You were stopping me from speaking. I
I was
was
stopping you from speaking because I asked the wrong question, and we have limited time. And I don't want you to you can answer it, and I could say, okay, that's
but
not what I meant. What I meant was this.
our time is indeed limited. But if when I try to say something, you do like this, and
Holy shit,
you know,
Bill!
so
Oh
let's,
my God, are you saying that if I make a statement and a question to you, and I say, you know, is the tree brown? And then I was like, well, wait a minute. I didn't meant the tree was brown. I meant, is it green? I can't interrupt you and say, well, wait a minute. That's not what I meant. What I meant is the tree green? You're telling me I cannot correct myself?
well, no, I'm not saying that. And perhaps I should not be focusing on the interaction between you and me. But I do frequently have the experience of when I start to speak, you begin shaking your head and waving your hands.
Well, yeah, I would say you believe you frequently experience that.
Yeah, maybe I'm wrong about that. I could be reacting, non-rationally and so forth. So let's move back
Okay.
what we're talking about.
So I said, does that mean you can use those words interchangeably? When you say that beliefs um, is learning, I'm having trouble with the concept. Does that mean you can use in your worldview both those words interchangeably? They're the same thing.
No, beliefs is not uh, the same as learning. Learning is the process by which new beliefs appear or become strengthened or become reduced in strength.
Okay. Okay. Now I'm saying it. Okay. So learning is the process by which beliefs are acquired
Or strengthened or
or
reduced.
strengthened. Does that, in your worldview, necessitate that learning can um, only does that in your worldview necessitate that beliefs can only come from learning? I would say no, right? You wouldn't agree with that.
Um, no, I would. There are two answers to this. First answer is no, uh, because it's a matter of definition. Uh, that is what is meant by learning. But there is a question as to whether there are some beliefs that are, quote, inborn and have not been a part of the, have not become a part of the nervous system by virtue of experience, but instead by virtue of normal brain development in the womb. So
Okay.
there is a possibility.
Okay. So if I understand you, so learning and beliefs are not the same thing. Learning is the process by which beliefs are acquired. So I still am unclear. I understand what learning is. Learning, I would, you said that learning, you said that learning is the process by which beliefs are acquired. And then I had asked you, well, okay, I understand what learning is. But then now if I ask you, that still doesn't explain what a belief is.
What is learning? You understand what learning is. What is it?
Well, I'm what I meant by understand is I think I understand what your worldview is saying. Learning is the process by which we acquire beliefs.
You said you said that you understood what learning.
No, what I meant by that is I'm trying to understand your worldview, and I think at this point I could understand what you mean by learning. Learning a new worldview means the acquisition of new beliefs. It's the process by which beliefs are formed.
Or modified.
Or modified. But I'm going to ask you now, well, what is a belief?
A belief is, well, it depends upon it. It is used in two realms. And I think that those two realms might correspond to a great extent to what I refer to in my use of my terms in the mind-body problem book, namely the subjective model and the objective model. See, one of the issues that have to do with what we're talking about is the method of learning, what the process of learning is, what it involves. So when you learn to tie your shoelaces, you acquire some beliefs about how you should move your fingers and so forth that don't ever really become verbalized, though they could. But when you learn where the nearest post office is from someone who tells you,
Okay.
you're learning that from words spoken to you by somebody else. And
Okay. I'm
and you
almost there. Keep going.
and of course you can also read words and learn a lot from what you have read.
So are you saying I felt like I was almost there, but it fell apart for me. I'm still not getting, I understand your reasoning when you say learning is the process by which beliefs are formed, but I'm still not hearing a clear definition of what a belief is, or what I understand what believing is and a belief in something is.
What?
I think we talked about this before. It's a statement of the extent to which you agree with the statement is accurate.
Now you're talking about statement.
Oh, yeah, right. We didn't like the word statement. What was the word I used last time?
No.
Um,
Are you confining belief to that which is put into words?
No, I said to believe in a belief, the belief. That's what I'm talking about. We talked about, I don't know if you recall last discussion, I had described that I consider that to be a difference.
Okay, so let's be clear. You're using another word. Actually, it's not another word. It's a phrase, a two-word linguistic entity, and it is different. It's believe in.
Right. So I understand, I think, what that is, but you're saying belief. I still
Well,
don't understand what belief is. You said learning is a process by which beliefs are formed.
what is belief in? What does that mean to you?
That's another topic that we kind of discussed last week. I want to just concentrate, and so I'm really want to try to understand your worldview. You
Yeah,
said
but
learning is the process by which beliefs are formed. What are beliefs?
modified.
Huh?
Formed or modified.
Formed or modified. Okay, or modified.
Because when you unlearn something, you're learning something.
Right. I I still am having a hard time understanding in your worldview a what you mean when you say beliefs in that statement. Learning is the process by which beliefs are formed or modified. That word beliefs, I don't fully understand yet.
It is a modification in the nervous system produced by experience. The modification uh, is one of the attributes of that modification is it produces some tendency to respond differently to it, to engage in different thought or behavior or feeling um, under certain circumstances. Um,
Okay.
so it's see, I don't, it's hard for me to understand. I don't know what your beliefs are about this, what your worldview says that, so all we're doing is taking my worldview and taking each word and saying, well, now, what do you mean by that? And so forth, with the idea that I am trying to justify my worldview or justify my word usage.
Well,
And
yeah, we had done the same thing with my worldview last session. I mean, I talked about my worldview a lot, especially at the end of the last discussion. And I came to a conclusion about your worldview, which you're claiming is wrong. And I'm trying to understand that led me to believe that I did not understand your worldview. So I'm trying to understand it. The reason why I'm harping on these words is because I really don't understand what you're meaning when you say the process by which beliefs are formed.
can you just remind me what your worldview is?
With regards to beliefs, my worldview creates it. Well, it it recognizes what I believe to be an important difference in the master set that we're calling beliefs. Um,
We
and
are
and
called,
that, yeah, we both say, that when someone says the word beliefs, that there's, remember I talked about in your worldview, I understand there to be this master set of beliefs, and there's a continuum, where these different beliefs can fall. They can be unconscious, conscious, it can be stated, not stated. So in my worldview, I recognize an attribute of things inside that master set, and I kind of treat them very, very differently. So on the one hand, I would say belief is very different. That's kind of one set. And then there are what we would call the belief, a belief, believing, which is another set. And the characteristic that those two sets have that differentiate themselves between them is belief, which is in this one set, is part of qualia. Believing, the belief, a belief, believe in, is something that's part of another set and happens and requires, to a certain extent, for lack of a better word, awareness to exist. So I have to be aware of the thing that I am believing in order for the idea to believe in something, the belief in something, a belief in something, for it to be in that set. Belief,
Well,
which is
that something happened.
Go ahead.
Something happened, and I could not follow it. It was almost like you were presenting a tautology or something like that. But I could not follow that last sentence. If you could redo that last sentence, repeat it, or
The character, the attribute that the defining attribute of the set that I am describing as that we would say the belief in, a belief, believe in, believing, requires conscious awareness. It requires us to be conscious and aware of our statement that we are believing. It's an assertion. That's what I
okay.
said before. It's a statement.
Let me ask you this question. Are you saying that if you are not aware of a belief in something, you do not have a belief in that something?
A belief in that something? No, not at the moment. Definitely not. I would
So,
say not even at the moment. You do not have that belief. Yes, and I can give you examples of that.
okay, well, wait. So, uh, I I think that you believe that that right now, right at this point in time, I think you believe that you are married.
Yeah, because I'm aware that I'm married.
No, you weren't
Yes,
aware.
I was. You just said it. I came to awareness. I'm married.
No. I said at this point, and that was before I said anything about married. That was not in your subjective experience.
You, this is something we've talked about before.
Yes.
No, that is not, I believe, what just happened. A more succinct description of what happened here is that you imagined in your head the idea of me sitting here and whether or not I believed I was married. As soon as I understood what you were saying, as soon as the words hit me, I became aware of the fact that I am married. I became aware of the idea of marriage. I became aware of the idea of wife and husband.
I
So
know,
I was aware.
I know, but that was my point that I was making in that. I was saying right now, before I tell you what I'm going to say, the question is, do you have that belief? You're saying that if you are not aware of something, then you do not have a belief that that is so. And I think that that's not correct. I think that we have beliefs in the brain that are not active at all. There's no awareness of them. Like what you did when you were 6 years old, or whatever question I could ask you. And the question is, before my asking that question, did you have that belief? And you're saying, no, you didn't have that belief. And I think that that is totally against the way that words are used.
Regardless of the way words are used, there is no way I claim that's what's happening. What's happening is you are imagining the existence of a state that cannot exist ever in the past, present, or will ever exist for humans. You cannot consider whether you believe in something and it exists if you're not aware of it. You can imagine you doing that and what that would be like, but you're still aware of it. You're imagining it.
Yes, so I understand. And this is I would say, a peculiar use of language. I think that your brain is such that if I ask you about certain things, you will indicate that you have the belief that such and such is so, or was so, or will be so. Uh, uh, that 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 there is something in the brain um, that has been changed, um, that indeed results in an awareness if you're asked certain questions or put in certain situations.
I got what you're I understand what you're saying. I would think there is a more succinct, more accurate way of describing what's happening in that situation you just described. I
I'm
think
not
that
what's happening in that situation. That's not what I am talking about.
but what's the point?
I'm talking about a state that exists in your brain that is not manifesting itself in any way currently,
That's,
but would under certain situations.
yeah, that's an accurate statement. It's a situation you're talking about. My brain is aware of something that is not aware, that exists, but I'm not aware of it. So that situation. Okay, that is what I'm talking about.
I didn't follow that. My brain is aware. I
You
didn't.
said that there are beliefs that you exist in your brain that you're not aware of.
Yes, I would say that.
Right. So I'm talking about that situation. Okay, that's not I think what you are doing is imagining that there are things in the brain that you believe that you're not aware of. And in imagining it, you are aware of them. You're aware of the things you're not aware of.
It's my brain thinking about what's in your brain.
Well, I would assume you mean you're applying the same thing to yourself, but even in that situation with me, yes, you are imagining. That's an easier situation for me. That's an easier situation for me to analyze and critique. Yeah, you are imagining that I have things in my brain I'm not aware of that actually exists. But that's not where the problem really comes on. I'm talking about for yourself. That's really I think the much trickier situation. The situation where you imagine that you believe that you imagine there are things inside of your head that exist that you're not aware of, and you therefore believe that that's true. But the salient point that I make, that I think is, look, I understand it's difficult to get, but the salient point is the very act of imagining those things makes you aware of those things.
No, I am aware that there are such things, but I am not aware of those things.
But you're
I
not,
am aware that there is much that I am not aware of.
you are aware of much of those things you're not aware of.
That's right. So the specific things I'm not aware of, but I can become aware of them. But my just saying that there are millions of things that I am not aware of, but I could become aware of many of them.
Well, let me show you why. Maybe I could take another tactic and show you that's not true. What are those million things you're not aware of? Can you tell me what they are?
No, because I'm not aware of them.
Well, but that's my point. You can only state beliefs in what you're aware of. You are aware of a million things you're not aware of. You can state that you believe there's a million things you're not aware of.
Yeah, but I can't tell you what they are until I become aware of them.
That substantiates my point. My point.
I don't think so.
Oh, I definitely think it does.
There's
When
something.
you are imagining a million things you're not aware of
No,
and
I'm not a
saying,
million things. I don't know how many there are
then
at all.
you are aware of an unknown number of things you're not aware of. You
I'm
are aware of those unknown number of things.
I am aware, I believe, that there are many things that exist that I know nothing about, that I have no awareness of. And some of them I never will, and others I will or have been aware, will become aware.
So it seems like you're having a difficult time. I don't think understanding. I think you're having a difficult time accepting that when you state when you make the statement or become you are automatically aware of the things you're not aware of. There's this
No,
set out there called things I'm not aware of that you
yeah,
become aware of. A
I, I,
set, the
I, be,
set. I'm not talking about the members of the set. I'm talking about the set.
I become aware that the set exists of things that I have no awareness of.
Right. You
That
cannot have a belief in that set. You cannot state, I believe there is, I believe in, or I have the belief of that set without being aware of that set.
but
That's my point.
that's not being aware of that particular item that is in the set.
That's not what you're making the claim about. You're making the claim that you believe there's a set out there of beliefs you're unaware of. You're not making any claims of beliefs in what the members are. You're making a claim about what you're aware of. You're making a claim about the set.
Yeah, but but what is the meaning of that set? Let's see if there's uh there are there's the set of all of the things in my house.
Mhm.
But that doesn't mean that I am aware of everything that is in the house. There's some cockroaches running around that I have no awareness of and never will.
I think what you're doing is you're confusing and exchanging a stated belief in the set for members of the set. You're not making a statement about the members of the set. You're making a statement about the set. I believe there is a set of things that I believe in that I'm not aware of. That set is what you're stating the belief in. You cannot make a statement that you believe in that set without being aware of that set. In a similar way, you cannot make statements about the members of that set in any other way except that of referring to the master set. You have to be aware of what you state you believe in. That's just my point there.
There's something that goes wrong here.
Hmm.
Uh, what's going wrong is clearer as time goes on, in my mind. Now, you would not agree that something is going wrong, but I believe that something is going wrong. So I think this is very close to what we're talking about. I see how it kind of fits in.
Mm-hmm.
That's like why you believe that unless you're thinking about or perceiving your wife, she does not exist.
Well, if you recall, I modified that. I said I have no way of even understanding the question. I
But
can't.
I
Yeah,
think
that question is non sequitur given my worldview.
that there's no there's no issue of sequitoriness of the statement. But there's something about that that I think you would agree that that's very atypical, right? Or not?
That what?
Your
Stating that I don't know if my wife exists unless I'm thinking about her. Uh, Depends who you talk to. I think, yeah, I would say the average person, if you speak to a solipsist, they know, I think they know exactly, or somebody who, not that my worldview is solipsism, but somebody who would state they're a Pyrrhonist or a solipsist, I would think they know exactly what I was talking about. I think certain Buddhists might say the same thing. But in any case, um, I think that, uh, you know, until someone can, until you or someone else, I think, can come close to it, this thing that you're sensing that just there's something going wrong here. I'm very interested to know what it is, because if I'm wrong about this, then I would very much like to know. Or if there's some faulty reasoning I'm using or something, or I'm making an assumption I shouldn't be making or
I
something.
think there is in this situation, it has to do with your ability to speak of a set without the ability to um, know whether something is in the set or not. And so the big set is those things that you know nothing about. And no, that's not going to work because the word know, and that implies already the belief in something.
I think maybe I could articulate. I think I might see where you're going with this. Are you saying that you're not recognizing that when you're talking about the master set, you're also talking about members of that set?
No, I would not say
No.
that, because I think you could. Well, it depends upon what you meant by that. Um, when you're talking about the set of things that you have no awareness of,
Okay.
then you would not be able to, that would not be a statement about a particular subset that you were aware of, or that you could name or something like that. Even that was not a good rendition of problem, but there is a problem right here. At any rate,
Can we try to figure out what the problem is? Because this is, I consider this very important to me to be able to knock this belief down that I have, if possible. Do you feel comfortable sticking with it, or do you think it's not profitable because we're not there yet to figure out what the problem is?
oh no, I think that it's a good thing to keep working on it.
Yeah, let's keep working on it. So are you saying that, let's let me just state it again, and let's rip it apart. So I am just claiming that you cannot state, maybe we should try this. Let's just go with the original thing. I am stating that you cannot state you believe in, have the belief in, a belief, or believing without being aware of what it is you're believing. And you said, well, wait a minute. What about, I can make the statement that I'm aware that I believe in things that I'm not aware of. And then I said, well, then you are aware of those things you're not aware of. So it's still coming into your awareness. Maybe we should take an easier situation. Maybe we could look at, can you make a statement? Can you have a thought about something you're not aware of? Because remember, I am claiming that to believe, the belief, a belief, I'm saying it's best understood as a statement. It's a cognitive, it's a thought, in almost, in a sense. I'm making a differentiation between that and belief. Again, we're talking about to believe, the belief, a belief. So maybe we should think of, can you make the statement or have a thought about something you're not aware of?
See, that thing about belief and to believe and so forth, that's problematic in my mind also. I can't imagine what you actually mean. The words, it's different ways of saying the same thing.
I agree. To believe, the belief, a belief, believing, the belief in, I believe in, or whatever you want to say. Those are all the same things. I would agree.
Well, no, they're not all the same thing. Um, they make use of a similar collection of words: believe, belief, believe in.
I
They
didn't say
make use,
belief in that set, though. Belief is
I,
something different. I said, just so you understand what I said to believe in, a belief in, the belief, believing is part of one set in my worldview, and they're all the same thing. Belief, I'm placing in another set, and I make the claim that's qualia. Part of qualia, excuse me, not qualia. part of qualia. I made that mistake last time.
So for it to be belief, one has to be aware of it.
No, to make the statement, a belief, the belief, to use the words a belief, the belief, believing, to believe, that requires awareness. Belief that's part of qualia is not necessarily something you need to be aware of.
Now, I thought that what you meant by qualia was those things that you were aware of.
I said you don't necessarily have to be aware of it. If I am not always aware that I'm thinking.
Yeah. Oh, well, I thought, no, I would assume that it depends. You may not be saying, hey, look at this, I'm thinking, but the thinking is considered to be conscious experience, which would be qualia.
Right.
Or so.
Well, not qualia, part of qualia. Or that might be considered qualia, part of qualia.
Oh, yes, that's what I meant. So that's the opposite of what you've been saying.
How so? I think I know how, but before I say, let me make sure I understand.
I can't reproduce what you say. I can't understand it.
Well, you just said that it's the opposite of what I said. How? Can you explain?
I just don't feel up to it. I can't. No, I can't do it. Maybe if we.
Okay, let me try then. So I say that belief is part of qualia. Okay, but what I can't say, and it exists regardless of whether I'm aware of it or not. I
Wait,
would.
wait.
Hmm?
Didn't you just say the opposite? Or maybe
I'm getting there. I'm getting there. But what I can't do.
go back over. Start again, please. Believe.
Well, I think this situation is going to come. It's going to become clearer.
No, please.
Qualia. Qualia. Belief is part of qualia, and it is. It's
Meaning,
not a. Let me.
it's something in conscious experience.
I don't know how to describe it. It's not. It's close to a feeling. It's not a feeling. It's.
I wasn't. I
It's
didn't.
part of.
I was not asking you to describe it.
Mm-hmm.
I was saying, then, am I right that you're saying it is consciously experienced?
No.
See that?
But belief is not necessarily quality is not necessarily consciously experienced. It can be when you become aware of it.
Ah,
It's more a qualia.
see, that's
You know, I don't. It's very difficult to describe what quality is. Yes, I can experience a belief. I can experience a thought. I can experience a feeling. Can I experience belief? Can I experience thinking? Can I experience these other things? Yes.
let's clarify. You are using qualia,
Mhm.
and you cannot say what that means. So, since it can mean anything, since you're not designating what it means, then these sentences that seem to be contradictory to each other can arise.
Agreed. Let me get clear on then again on what quality is.
Mhm.
what qualia is. Asking me what qualia is like asking me what consciousness is. You're not asking me what the experience of, you're asking me what qualia is.
I'm asking you about word usage.
Yeah. Let's go with, for now, qualia is your subjective experience. And there are things we would use metaphorically, we would say, like there are things in your subjective experience, we would say there are things in qualia, things that make up qualia. And those things,
But let me first,
go ahead.
My understanding of qualia is that that is a plural word.
You could see it that way. That's not typically how I use it, but I could see that.
Qualia would refer to all those things that we consider to be a qualium.
That's not my understanding of it.
I see. What is your understanding of it?
Qualia refers to the entities, if you will, that make up our subjective experience. Those include
Entities. That's plural.
but there's one qualia. There are multiple constituents of qualia. Qualia is a set, and then there are members of a set.
Okay, my understanding would be that if I have an itch, that is a qualia. That is an example of a qualia. I see. I'm using it as a singular word now. So one of the questions is whether the word qualium exists, because it's a Latin word, I believe, and qualia is very likely to be a plural of something that ends in un.
Mm-hmm. I've never heard the word qualium be used.
Yeah, neither have I.
In the way that we're talking about. I've
Oh,
never heard it that used that way, but it doesn't mean it, just never heard it.
so we can say that anything that is in the set of qualia is a qualia. We'll just say
It would be
that.
like deer and deer. There's a set of deer, and then
Yeah,
there's a deer,
yeah.
and its name is Fred. So Fred is part of the deer.
Let me ask you: is an itch a qualia?
An itch is a sensation as qualia.
So the answer is yes.
Yes.
Okay. Uh, is um, the sensation of warmth a qualia?
Yes, it's a sensation.
Uh-huh. Uh, is a sound a qualia?
Yes, it's a sensation.
And by that, I mean a sound, the experiencing of a sound.
Yes.
Uh,
Good point. Excellent point, actually. Very good point. The experience of the sound is qualia. Correct.
so
And in the same way, the experience of the itch, the sensation is qualia.
that's what I was about to say.
Right.
So experiencing of anything, that makes it a qualia, definition wise, the experiencing of anything.
Yes, the experience of something makes it a qualia.
Okay. And so if something is not experienced, it is not a qualia.
This is where it gets, so it's not a qualia.
Right.
That's important. You're talking of, when you say a qualia,
Yeah. That's what we have been.
correct. But I think, doesn't that beg the question, if you're saying a qualia, would it be fair to say what you're talking about here is an instance of qualia? It's the instance of a deer. But what is deer? You could say, what is qualia? When we're talking about an instance of qualia, a member of the set, so to speak. Well, we
The
haven't talked about qualia. What is that?
Yeah. Okay. So the word qualia can be used in two different ways. In one way, it's referring to specific things, namely experiences, and the other usage is the total collection of all experiences. As they're being experienced.
I don't know how to define qualia in that sense.
Well, then it's a useless term.
Yeah, okay, I agree. Let's do it, Dave. If you're talking about qualia, well, here's why. You can say, we could talk about a qualia in the same way we talk about a deer, and then we can say, well, what is a deer? And we could say analogously, well, what is qualia? What is deer? And to say, well, all deer means is a collection of individual deers kind of doesn't do justice to the fact that there's a lot more meaning to the word deer than just a collection of deer. It's a species. It has, it's a member of it's one of the species in planet Earth. It's a whole bunch of other maybe attributes. In the same way, to just say that qualia is simply a group of experiences is accurate, but it also seems to me to be not an incomplete definition.
Okay, let's stay with deer for a minute.
Okay.
Deer and deer are two different words, but they
Correct.
cannot be distinguished by listening to them or seeing them printed on the page. You have to determine which meaning from the
You're right.
content.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're right. You can't use it too. It's bad. I qualia. Yeah, right. Yeah. It can't. I have to accept maybe that when I'm referring to qualia in the same way I'm referring to the deer, what I'm really talking about is consciousness. And qualia is what you just said, which is you're talking about a qualia. It is a something. And when I talk about qualia in the plural, it's just a collection of experiences. I think that's probably the best way of doing. I agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you said belief was a qualia.
Belief is a qualia. That's my claim.
Okay. So if the belief, if you're not aware of having the belief, then it is not a belief because it is not a qualia.
Correct.
So you cannot have beliefs that you are right at the moment aware that you have. You cannot,
Correct. This is a good way of explaining my worldview. Correct.
if you're not aware of a particular belief, then that belief does not exist in your brain.
Correct. But it doesn't mean that you can't imagine that there are things out there that exist that you're not aware of. But like that, it's you're still aware. You become aware of it. So therefore, it's part of qualia.
Well, so if a person believes that Harris Teeter has something on sale today, that means that the person is thinking about that at the moment. But a few moments later, when that is not in the person's mind at all, the person no longer has the belief. And that is very, very atypical.
Well, does not have the belief. Yes, I would say that is true. In order for something to be a belief, it has to substantiate itself, so to speak, as part of qualia. It doesn't mean, well, I mean, obviously this is completely, I think, clear. People act all the, this is an important point. People act and behave all the time without, in ways that don't manifest, are not directed by qualia. Would be my claim.
Now we're lost again. It's that introduction to the word qualia that I thought we were going to maybe dispense with. But let's get back here to
qualia. Okay.
Place, because I think we scatter away.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's continue with your reasoning.
Okay. So right now, a person is aware that Harris Teeter has a sale on a particular item. The person
Correct.
has belief that Harris Teeter has a sale on that item.
Would agree.
Okay.
Yes.
A few moments later, the person has forgotten all about that and is doing something else, and therefore no longer has the belief that Harris Teeter has something on sale. But then a few moments later than that, person's awareness is brought back to it in some way. And the person now is again aware. So the belief existed, and then it disappeared, and then it existed again.
Correct.
And that would imply that the brain was organized in a particular way, and then that organization disappeared and then reappeared just because of what they were. See, I think
wait, hold on. I don't agree with that statement.
It's very atypical.
Yeah, I don't care if it's atypical, but I would agree it's atypical to people who have a worldview that's have a certain worldview. So, but I would agree with that.
I think it has more to, well, it has to do with word usage, agreed upon word usage.
No, I don't think so. I think it has to do with people confusing and not recognizing the difference between qualia and sensation and experience and their imagination.
Well, Yeah, so all of that is very ambiguous, can become very ambiguous. Let's construct an experience, a situation. Two people are observing a third person.
Okay. Two people are observing a third person. Got it. I'm imagining it.
The third person, we'll try to imagine what I'm describing.
I am.
Uh,
Well, okay, I'm going to imagine what you're describing. Two people are imagining a third person or looking at a third person.
See, it's already, I can't present what I'm doing because it's getting distorted.
Well, I'm asking you to clarify. What is it that I'm supposed to imagine?
If I can get back to what I'm describing, I think I can make it clear.
Okay.
John and Mary
Okay. Mary.
are talking with Jim.
Okay.
Jim says there is a sale on such and such.
Okay.
Jim then starts doing something unrelated.
Okay.
He starts washing dishes.
Okay.
Or starts dressing, or starts a conversation with somebody else about something else.
Okay.
John says to Mary, Jim believes that there is a sale at Harris Teeter on such and such. Now, you would say that's incorrect because Jim is talking about right now. And right now, I'm sorry, John is talking about right now. And right now, Jim is not at all aware of the sale, is not thinking about or experiencing the
right.
So
right.
John's saying that Jim believes that there's a sale.
Right.
Teeter would be an incorrect statement.
Yes. Well, it's incomplete. What he is saying, what he should say is, I remember John saying that there was a sale at Harris Teeter. Therefore, I believe, or I don't believe, there's a sale at Harris Teeter.
Well, that's a separate issue.
Right. The first part of what I said was accurate. He should be saying, I remember John saying there was a sale at Harris Teeter.
Okay, so you would disapprove of John saying Jim believes there's a sale at Harris Teeter.
I mean, I think it's even more specific. What I could say is, I imagine John saying there was a sale at Harris Teeter. It's probably even more specific, but anyway.
Let me add something different.
Okay.
So after Jim tells John that there is a sale at Harris Teeter on such and such, John goes to the phone and calls Harris Teeter and finds out that no, there is not a sale on that item.
Okay.
So John comes back and says to Mary, Jim believes that there is a sale at Harris Teeter, but there is not. Has he misspoken?
Completely. He said, I remember Jim saying there was a sale at Harris Teeter. There is not. I know a scenario that's going to nail exactly what you're talking about. Let's consider this one. Jim believes there's a sale at Harris. I've thought about this a lot. This is a potential hole. Jim believes there's a sale at Harris Teeter. He goes about his business, washes dishes, and talks to his friend and something else. And then he makes a decision to pick up his keys and go to Harris Teeter because of the sale. He says to himself, I remember there's a sale at Harris Teeter. So now the question becomes,
Wait a minute. I remember there is a sale. Doesn't sound. I remember acquiring the belief that there is a sale, or I remember reading that there is a sale, or I remember somebody telling me.
Right.
Yeah, he could say that, but that does not mean that what I have him saying is incorrect or would be considered.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying this is a potential hole in my worldview. So the question then becomes, how could Jim spontaneously decide if this is what's happening? I think this situation has to be looked at in more detail, and I've looked at it in more detail. How could Jim spontaneously decide to do something on the basis of a belief he had, if that belief didn't go somewhere and still existed and just popped up again? I mean, that seems to be a strong case for the idea that beliefs kind of pop in and out of consciousness. And if they're in consciousness and they can pop in and out, well, then they must be the same thing. They're just conscious and unconscious are the same thing.
Well, yeah, you are correct. I'm talking about correct with regard to usual word usage. Beliefs can indeed become conscious or become unconscious.
Right.
Or not ever have become conscious.
Well,
but they are still beliefs. And what that's referring to is what exists in the brain that act can be in different modalities.
If I could continue with because it feels like you kind of interrupting what I was saying. So I think you're right. I mean, I think that is supportive of the idea. If you that seems supportive of the idea that a belief exists whether you're aware of it or not, or else how could it pop up again?
Yes.
Okay. See, I think when I've thought about that, I thought about that for like weeks and weeks and weeks and trying to understand, what the heck is going on here. Mm-hmm. I think it's another way and a more accurate way of describing what's happening. And I think when I even think that way, I am not assigning, but I am I'm sorry, my dog Zeus he might be throwing up and it's distracting me. Let me just get back to this. Make sure he's okay. He's okay. I think when somebody makes that statement, what they're basically saying, at least that's when I was doing an analysis myself and really.
What statement?
When I go through the scenario of somebody who says they believe Harris Teeter has a sale, then does something else, and then then they say spontaneously, seemingly out of nowhere, yeah, oh, I believe. Did you hear that? I believe Harris Teeter has a sale. And he states that belief again. The fact that you can state a belief, become unaware of it, and then seemingly from another person's point of view, suddenly become aware of the belief, seems to support the notion that beliefs exist whether or not you're aware of them, and they right. So I thought about that for a long time.
Okay, so we
And
are,
wait, no, let me finish. I don't agree with it. I haven't explained why. So I think what's happening there, kind of in more detail, is the person is making I think like almost like a logically fallacious reasoning. They're deducing or inferring that because the person states they have a belief, then it apparently goes away, and then they state it again, and it's still a belief, that they're just making a deduction and inference without any kind of support, that when that person wasn't talking about their belief, that the belief still existed. That's not, I think, what's happening.
did
What,
anything, was anything existing having to do with,
huh?
was anything existing having to do with that belief?
Let me finish. So, but I think what's happening is that he has the belief. He states, "I believe." No, 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 no. Then he goes and do something else. Okay, that idea that Harris Teeter exists, that Harris Teeter has a sale, becomes part of memory. It's no longer a belief. It's memory. When he recalls that memory,
Whoa, wait a minute. A memory would be a qualia.
right?
When the person isn't remembering it, it doesn't exist according to your way of thinking about it if you use the same thing with regard to beliefs. So you don't have any memories until
No,
you're actually
that's
remembered.
to use the word memory. Well, to say the word I I have the memory that, in the same way I say, to say you have the belief in, you say you are believe that you have a belief, cannot exist unless it's in qualia. The same thing is true. To say that I remember that, I have the memory that, or I remember in, or I remember of this happening, that has to be in qualia in
Okay,
order for you to.
so let me see if I'm understanding correctly. You have no memories other than what you are actively remembering right now.
I would agree. In the same way, you have. Let's see. Again, what do you mean by memories? I agree that that's stretching it. What do you mean by memories?
I think
But what do you mean by memories? I agree. This is potential weakness. What do you mean by memories?
um, tendencies to imagine a particular thing under certain circumstances, with that imagining being accompanied by the belief that it actually did happen, something like that.
You could say that one more time.
Okay. Um, I forgot now what I was defining. Memories,
Memories.
or a memory, a memory.
I think, yeah. I think a memory, or just, are you trying to describe to memory?
Okay, I'll try memory. Memory is the capability of imagining a situation um, that actually did happen in the past. The only problem is there is such a thing as false memories.
That's what I was going. That's where I was going with memory.
And before that was not a good definition.
Well, I think I think a
Memory,
good.
I'm sorry, memory is an imagination accompanied by the belief that this actually did happen.
Right. That you believe that it happened in the past. So what you're saying really, memory is is your imagination accompanied by a certain belief. Okay. I can so to say that, does a memory exist when you're not thinking about it? What you're really saying is, does the memory exist when I'm not imagining it, firstly? And if you're talking about imagination, I mean, really, because we both agree, it has to do firstly with imagination. The question becomes, is it necessary for, if you can imagine, I mean, you can imagine anything. It's not necessary for something to, what you just said, have existed. That's nothing to do with that. I can imagine anything. I can imagine the things that I don't believe in. Memory has nothing to do with anything other than your imagination and your belief in it. So to say that you don't have memories unless you are imagining that you did is, believe it or not, the conclusion I came to, somewhat reasonable. Although so cognitively dissonant, it gives me a headache and it makes me nauseous, it does seem on its merits to be somewhat reasonable, is the conclusion I came to.
Well, memory, I would say a little more accurately, memory is a tendency under certain circumstances to imagine something and have the belief that what is being imagined actually did take place.
Well, even with that definition of memory, which I think is the most accurate, it still seems reasonable and possible, very possible, that if you're simply, memory is just simply imagination combined with a certain belief, it doesn't necessarily require that that whatever it is you're believing in and imagining existed, or when you're not aware of it.
I'm sorry?
We have been talking about memory as it's this entity and thing. And I think upon further examination, and something that exists independently of awareness, but on further analysis, what we really agreed upon, because I agree with your definition, I came to the same independently of you. Memory is really the imagination of something combined with the belief that the imagination, what you're imagining, happened in the past. So the question becomes, is what you're does what you're imagining had to have existed when you weren't aware of it? And I'd say no.
Because there can be false memories.
Yeah, I mean, that's one. It's amazing how similarly we think and reason. That is the exception that I also thought about. And I said, well, wait a minute, you can have false memories. That kind of implies that memory is more part of your imagination. So, you know, that's very applicable, I think, when we talk about what's happening with Jim, Mary, and John. Now, something else I came to that poked some holes in that is I think that they have done experiments where they stimulate a part of the brain, and the person says, well, I have this memory of my dog I had jumping. I think they've done something like that.
Yeah.
That from a certain point of view, then, since the person is reporting that they are imagining something that happened that they believe in the past, and is comprised with an electrical signal they're doing something to the brain, that seems to provide some evidence that things that the quality you're experiencing at any given moment, that you can then later imagine and remember it being in the past, in a sense, does exist somewhere here. That's certainly that's a strong possibility. Now, my concern. Say that again.
We follow that. Maybe.
Well, if I can stimulate a part of my brain, if someone can stimulate a part of my brain, and I can say, I'm imagining now my girlfriend that I remember I dated when I was 18 years old. Okay, that seems to support the idea that what I believe, or the quality that that's happening to me right now in any given moment, that I can later recall and imagine and believe happened in the past, is somehow actually does exist as a model in the brain, because I can stimulate a part of the brain and all of a sudden imagine something that I believe happened in the past. So that's very supportive of the idea that memories.
The only problem is that the stimulation itself could stimulate pathways or some part of the total set of active neurons becoming active that would not be there if it were not for the stimulation. So
Oh, good point. So I could be very good point. So what you're saying is it's possible to simulate false memories, which I also know is true. They've done studies about that also. I didn't even think about that. Good point, Bill. So then that adds more support to the idea that it is not necessarily so that memories exist. This is hard to get my head around. Actually, that's more support that memories, don't necessarily have to exist when you're not aware of them. This is just very strange.
say it again. I'm not sure whether you said not or didn't say not.
I said this seemed to substantiate further the idea that it is not a necessity for a memory to exist when you're not aware of it. I mean, I think what I'm having trouble with here is, what the hell is imagination then? how can I will some, this is my experience of imagination. I've thought about imagination a lot. It's like I seem to, on the basis of an act of will, which we haven't really talked about, what does that mean? But for lack to use speak poetically, yeah, I seem to have an act of will and can picture in my head, can see pictures in my head and hear things in my head and hear words in my head, seemingly at will. And even things I've never experienced before. At least that I believe I've never experienced before. How do I do that? That's really hard for me. I haven't thought about it that much, but
Well, that's a very technical problem having to do with how the nervous system functions and so on. There wouldn't be any reason why you or I would have the answer to that. I don't think.
yeah.
I don't.
Well, I guess what I mean by that is not to speak mechanically, so to speak, about the biology behind it. I'm speaking more about the subjective experience of how exactly it is I experience my ability to do that.
How you experience your ability to do that. See, I'm not sure what exactly what you mean.
I guess what we're really getting to is when I say it's an act of will, when I say, I'm making, or I'm, what does that mean? I did it with intention. I intended to do that. When we talk about agency, somebody has agency.
Well, that gets into the mind-body
Mind-body
problem.
problem. Yeah, no, I agree. I agree, and maybe that's the reason why it's so hard for me to think about. But
Feminism.
yeah. So, but regardless, um, that's kind of my worldview on beliefs, and on the one set, and on the other set is the belief in to believe, a belief, believing. It's kind of why I kind of separate them into two.
That separation is just a ambiguous blob in my mind.
Okay, so I'll say what I meant by that. Seriously, so I believe that there
We're
are.
talking about, with our word usage, we have several ways of saying the same thing. Um, the words can be used in different ways. Um,
Yeah,
I believe that X. I have a strong belief that X
yeah, yeah. That's not
means.
the same thing. That's not what I meant by the two different sets. So, the one set is all of what you just said. It's like to believe, a belief, the belief, believing in, believing, I believe. Those are all part of a set. But then I also recognize there's another set that I would just call belief, which is
How is it used in sentences?
the way. Stop. He's driving me crazy. I'm sorry. Um, it would be
How,
used in the same way I said it just now, that there are two different things. There's the act of believing,
oh,
or
I'm talking,
believing
can you give an example of the use of the word belief?
in the way to highlight the criteria that makes it part of its own set. Yes. Um, I believe in God because belief is part of human subjective experience. be one way of doing it.
Well, that would be very, very strange.
It would be like saying,
It would be
I feel anger because feelings are part of human subjective experience. It would be like saying, I can think about my dog because thinking, because thinking is part of human experience. It's part of subjective experience.
well, you
That's what.
say the word think like believe, but then you were saying uh, thinking, which would be like believing.
Well, that's because those words don't match. Well, yeah, I think. Well, no, not necessarily. Oh, okay. Let me use the different words then. I can
Just,
think. Well, I can. Let me use a
it's
more accurate word.
just different ways of using the words.
No, it's not. They're different ways. Yes, there are different ways of using the words, and some are more accurate than others. You made a good point. You're right. To say think and thinking, or I have a thought. So let me restate that. Um, I can feel anger, or rather, I can I can have a thought about my dog because thought is part of is subjective experience. I can feel anger, or rather, I can have a belief in my dog's existence because belief is part of subjective experience. I have, I have, I have the sensation of an itch because sensation is part of subjective experience.
Yeah, but um, that is including your, I believe, incorrect word usage, uh, saying that when you are not aware of it, then it doesn't exist.
Okay, say that one more time. That,
Your general tendency is to say that if you're not aware of something, then it does not exist.
okay.
Yeah, and I think that,
How does that violate it?
well, that's a bizarre idea to have. Now, that doesn't mean that it's wrong, but there's,
Let's be more succinct here.
but wait.
That's
If
not
we,
true.
wait,
I,
wait,
I
wait,
fell into that trap also,
wait,
and
wait.
then I'll write it down. I'll bring it up after you say it. Go ahead.
We're talking about word usage by people. These words are brought into existence and agreed upon by people. And I believe um, that according to word usage um, of almost everyone, people say that there are things that exist that I'm not aware of and may never be aware of.
Yeah. See, I need to stop falling into this trap of adopting the way you use words. Okay, because that is not that is I've that is not what I say and what I've said. I haven't, and I've clarified this many times. And you keep saying you believe things don't exist, and I'm just assuming that you're using the word exist in the way I described it. It's not. I have not, and I have always refuted the idea of saying things don't exist when I'm not aware of them. I say that you can't state you believe that things exist. You can't consider their existence or state whether you believe in them or not without being aware of them. So therefore, you have no idea whether they exist or not if you're not aware of them. You can't even pose the question of whether they exist or not. You can't even
Well,
form that idea of whether they exist or not.
that's very atypical word usage.
It has nothing to do with word use. It has to do with a different way of understanding human psychology. So that's nothing to do
Well,
with word usage.
well,
I'm sta-
I think it does.
How?
Well, we've come back to the other problematic word, exist. You know, we've been several rounds on that. um,
Um,
so if you say that something cannot exist unless you are aware of its existence,
I don't know I'm not sure why I have to say the same thing. I think I have to say the same thing so many times because I keep slipping into making assumptions about what you're saying, and I have to stop doing that. I'm going to just say it again. You cannot state that something exists, whether it's my wife or a sale at Harris Teeter, without being aware of what you're stating exists, what you're
at,
stating you believe exists.
at the time that I'm saying it,
Correct.
but then it
So,
does not, but
okay,
then it does not go out of existence just because my mind goes to something else.
it, when you just said, yes, but it doesn't go out of existence just because I'm not thinking about it. It's because you're aware of that which you're imagining goes out of existence right now. You have to imagine, in order to do this accurately, you have to imagine not from your point of view now of you not being aware of something. You have to imagine yourself literally not being aware of something at that moment in time. And does that thing, would you state at that moment when you're not aware of what you're what you're imagining that exists, would you say that it existed at that point? And I'm saying you can't. Maybe we
Yeah,
should spend a whole discussion on this because this is like so um look, I understand it's um it would be an atypical statement, but this seems this is so, upon real consideration, this is so ironclad tight. It it's almost, I'm sure it's not irrefutable, but it seems real close to it, that you cannot consider whether something exists or not without being aware of what you're considering exists. Therefore, what's how can you make a statement that something exists without being aware of what you're stating and what you're considering to exist or not?
I'm saying that there are things that exist that I'm not aware of.
But and here we went back to that set problem.
Aware of those things. It's a set of things that I can't be aware of.
The only thing that you can believe exist are those things that you are aware of.
I'm sorry.
You cannot have, you cannot believe in, you cannot have the belief of, you cannot state I believe, the belief, believing, you can't do any of that without being aware of what it is you're considering exists or not. That it's impossible. You can imagine the things that you're not aware of, but you're still aware of those things you're not aware of. You're making a statement about that specific set of things you're not aware of.
I think there is an inaccuracy in that.
We went through that already once in this discussion, and we didn't find, at least I don't think we found one.
I know. There's something that seems, from my standpoint, seems unchangeable about your position here. And it's your version of, and possibly others' versions of, solipsism.
It's impossible for me to, it's not impossible for me to change my position. Please, how about you give me reasons to do it? And when people, the reason why solipsism is sticking around, and not that my worldview is solipsism, because it's not, but the reason why solipsism is sticking around is that no philosopher in 2,000 years since Pyrrho has, or anybody, any thinker, any human on the planet has been able to come up with an argument that satisfactorily refutes it. It may be uncomfortable, it may be unpopular, it may be, laughable. That's all is what it is. What matters to me is the accuracy of an argument refuting it.
Yeah. I don't know. As we have been down this road many times, and maybe there is, value in continuing, because why is it that we cannot come to agreement? I know that you do not value agreement like I do. Now, agreement to that which is accurate, not just agreement to anything. So I have to make sure that that's a part of it. But we can continue with it. I note what's happening is we're making the same statements over and over, week after week.
I find value in that.
Okay.
I find value in having you challenge me on a weekly basis about the same things, and you do it in slightly different ways, but you still kind of do it. And I'm hoping one day you'll present an idea, or that it'll click. Oh, this is what makes no sense about what Mike is saying. This is what I disagree with. And you'll make a point that, I'm committing this logical fallacy, or I am having circular reasoning, and I'm like, oh, you're right. I never thought of that. But regardless of that, we could start talking about, why it is we're having difficulty coming to agreement, or what is it about our own value systems that's, at least this is what I think it is, it's that what we value, what we prefer, is what's preventing us from coming to agreement. One of the, you have a preference and you value using words that are commonly used, and forming communicating your ideas using those words. I don't have a problem redefining those words and claiming that the way people are using these words are inaccurate. So I think that's one big difference in our values. I also think that you have a tendency to value utility and practicality and benefit. I do also, but I think you do it in a slightly different way. I believe that a worldview that is most accurate, or that I believe is most accurate, will provide me the most benefit. So I have a tendency to work backwards from that idea. I don't say to myself, well, what's going to provide the most value and benefit in my life, and I'm going to believe that. I'm starting from the standpoint of what do I believe is most accurate as regards to the way subjective experience works, and work backwards from that and behave according to, you know, what I believe is most accurately really happening. And I have the belief that that will provide me the most benefit. I think that's another difference between you know, our two value systems here. I think we both value practicality and beneficial and being something being of benefit and utility, but it's how we arrive at that benefit, I think differs. What do you think? Would you agree with those two ideas?
Yeah, I'm not sure. And I am noticing I'm distracted a little bit by an issue of time.
Oh, you got to go.
Um, yeah, I've got another Zoom conversation coming up at
Okay.
7.
Okay. Very good. So, you want to start next time with an exploration of our values, and or I mean, what do you think?
We can do that, whatever seems right at the time.
Or you know, or we could start with you know, continuing to critique each other on our worldviews regarding you know, existence and what that means. No preference, or do you want to decide at the start of our next call?
Probably decide at the start of the next.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. I found that thing about memory very, very helpful. I'm going to think about that when I'm offline, because that brought up again in a more succinct way some things about my worldview that I found troubling and not making any sense. I'll think about that more offline. All right, my friend. So I'll see you next Wednesday.
Yes.
All right. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You